Hi everyone, my name is Ravi Krishna Janyavala and welcome to my channel Ravi Tech Talks. Please do like and subscribe to get notifications. Let us get started with our course Microsoft Azure IoT. In this video, we will look at Azure IoT Hub device provisioning services. Let us go to our Azure portal. So in the Azure portal, you can go to create a resource. So here you can search for IoT Hub device provisioning service. So you'll get a window where you can start creating it. You can see the plan. So okay, and you can see the user information support and all those things. Here you will have a overview section. Okay, you just need to click create. Okay, you need to select your subscription and resource group. I'll give it some existing resource group what we had previously, and in the name I will give IoT Hub -AZ 20 hyphen APS -01. Okay. Okay, again, this name, using this name, it will create an registration URL, what I was saying. So this name need to be unique globally, because since this will be a part of an URL. Okay, then you need to select your region from where your DPS service will be there. So just let me select the south of India. Yep. And network. So again, similar to Azure IoT Hub, you'll have private endpoints and public endpoints. So I have discussed previously on what is private endpoint and public endpoint in when we are creating Azure IoT Hub. So let's go with public endpoint. So coming to the pricing tier, IoT Hub device provisioning service, it only has one pricing tier, that is S1 pricing tier, and you can see it charges around $0.169 per 1000 operations, that is 1000 requests basically. The next, you can use tags here. So the tags will be like we previously discussed, to group or to filter this resource anywhere else in the Azure portal. We can use these tags. So I'm just reviewing it and click create. It will take some time for it to create this resource. Once the resource is created, just go to the resource. So this is our device provisioning service. As I have mentioned previously, this service endpoint is nothing but the registration URL, what we will be using at our device level. Okay, and as I mentioned about scope ID, which is required for the registration. So this is our scope ID. Okay, and you can find a quick start here, where it will give you different tutorials on how do you link IoT Hub and how to manage allocation policies, and how do you manage enrollments and everything. You can have a go and look at it. So we were discussing about linking IoT Hubs. So to link an IoT Hub, you need to come to linked IoT Hubs section here, and then click add. Okay, this is the subscription, and this is the only IoT Hub available in this. And coming to access policies, as I mentioned previously, you need to create a new access policy, and in that access policy you need to give service connect, registry read, and registry write, these three permissions. So after giving these three permissions, you will be able to see that access policy what you created here. So you can select it, but as of now for the demo, I only have one access policy. It is IoT Hub owner. It comes with all the permissions. I'm going with the IoT Hub owner, but when you are using this in the production systems, it is better to create an access policy and give it three permissions, that is registry read, registry write, and service connect. So only these three permissions are required. So you can give these three permissions and you can create an access policy, and then you will be able to find that access policy in this drop down, and you can select that. Let me go ahead and save this. So once I save this, the IoT Hub will be linked to our device provisioning service. As you can see, it's been linked. Okay, Then we were talking about device enrollment configurations, right? So you can go to manage enrollments. Okay, so in the managed enrollments, if you want to create individual enrollments, that is one device per device enrollment, you can create individual enrollments here. Add individual enrollment. So when you are creating individual enrollments, you'll get it in the individual enrollment section. And this mechanism is nothing but attestation whether you want to go with symmetric key, TPM module, or X509 certificates. So the X509 certificates, it supports um, what do you say, production ready certificates, which are attested by the certificate signing authorities. And TPM module, it's a hardware module which holds the security details. So we will discuss more about TPM module at a later point, and even we will discuss more on X509 at a later point. As of now, we will look at mostly symmetric keys. Okay. So individual registration ID would say device is at 01. Then we need to specify the device ID. So basically the difference here is, let us say your manufacturer has created a device with the ID device AZ-220.01. Okay, and but when it is registering with your IoT hub, you don't want to use that. You might want to have a meaningful one saying that device 0, let us say US car hyphen device 01, like that, something you want to make it more meaningful. So then you can specify the device ID here. Otherwise, if you don't specify the device ID here, it will use the same registration ID to register it as a device ID in your Azure IoT hub. Okay, so is it IoT edge device? I would, as of now, I would say false. And this is one of the allocation policies we have discussed previously. By default, evenly weighted distribution will be there. You can go for low latency, static configuration, or custom. As I mentioned, if you are using a custom one, you need to specify use Azure function, it is saying, right? So you need to specify the Azure function also. You need to come back and configure. Here you can see select Azure function. So it is asking you to select an Azure function. So it is trying to fetch Azure functions from the subscription. Since I don't have any Azure functions, so it is still in a loading state. But if you take this off and go to evenly weighted distributions, you can see that that configuration is gone. Only when you are selecting custom, then you'll be able to see this section where it is asking you to select Azure function. Okay, and link to the IoT hub. So here you can find all the list of IoT hubs. Since I have only one IoT hub, I am selecting that particular IoT hub, and I am saying link this device. This new device need to be registered with this particular IoT hub. Okay, and so this is again, like if you are registering reprovisioning a device, how do you want to provision, and you want to set any initial configuration, and or if you want to migrate any data, so that sort of things you can configure here. Okay, and as I mentioned previously, the initial device twin, you can set it here. Here what I can say is, like in the tags I can say um, initial tag. Okay, I'll just say initial tag. We'll say okay, and here you're saying enable entry. Okay, so this is nothing but enabling or disabling enrollment entry. I'll just say save. So here we have this individual enrollment. So if we go to similarly to group enrollment, you will find a similar set of features where, but you need to specify a group name. You can say location hyphen India. I think it doesn't, yeah, location hyphen India. Here you can say whether it supports attestation type. It supports will be either symmetric key or certificate. Okay, when you are doing it in groups, it doesn't support TPM module. Okay, and it's not yeah, you can specify whether to use CA signed certificate or an intermediate certificate. So when you are doing it on an enrollment group level, so it is like you are going to do for multiple devices. So all those devices, you'll have the root certificate configured here, and based on the root certificate, you'll be generating intermediate certificates for the devices, and each of the device will have its own intermediate certificate. And when they are trying to register, they will send those intermediate certificate that will be validated against the root certificate, primary certificate or secondary certificate here, and then they will get registered. So apart from let me say symmetric. Okay, so apart from that configuration, here also you get to see the same kind of allocation policies, evenly weighted, custom, static, and low latency. Okay, and here also you need to get to select your Azure IoT Hub device, and similarly whether if when you are reprovisioning and you want to migrate data, select how you want to device and new reprovisioning. Okay, how you want to handle this, and the initial device twin. So on this, if you want me to make a video much detail into this, please let me know in the comments so that I will make it for you. Okay, here also you can configure initial device twins. Okay, I'm not doing an group enrollment as we have done an individual enrollment. Let me go ahead and demo you with an individual enrollment here. So if you click on the individual enrollment, what we have created, there are two important keys which we will be requiring. So this is the primary key and the secondary key. So these two keys we will require in our code level for the device to connect to this Azure device provisioning service using this enrollment. So here we have enrolled this device. We said that this device can connect to the device provisioning service, and the device provisioning service will register this device with our Azure IoT Hub. So other details what we will require is, if you go to overview section, you will see the service endpoint. This is our registration URL. You will see scope ID. So these are also the details what we require. So if I switch to Visual Studio, so in the Visual Studio, as you can see, these are the two packages which we will require: Microsoft Azure Devices Provisioning Client and Microsoft Azure Devices Provisioning Transport.amqp. So these are the two NuGet packages what you need to download. So as you can see here, as I mentioned previously, so I have copied the scope ID from the portal, and the registration ID is nothing but the device ID or the registration ID what we mentioned on the Azure portal during the individual enrollment. And this is our primary key for the individual enrollment, and this is the secondary key, and this is the registration URL. Okay, and this is our program where we have created a security provider using symmetric key. So to that symmetric key we are passing the registration ID, the primary key, secondary key, and for the transportation we are saying the transport need to be AMQP. Okay, using the provisioning device client, we have created a provisioning device client create, and we are passing the global device endpoint, that is nothing but the registration URL, and we are passing in the scope ID, and we are passing in the security variable what we created here, and we are passing the transport variable. So after creating the client, we are saying register.async, and if I run this program, it will register. This is nothing but a simulation of our device. So this program will be there in our actual device. So this device will try to connect to the Azure DPS, and that DPS will register this device on our Azure IoT Hub. So as you can see from the console program, it is saying that the assigned hub is this one and the device is this. So now let us go to our Azure IoT Hub to see if we got the device there. You go to IoT devices. So here is the device which got added through device provisioning service. And if you see the device twin, when we were creating the initial enrollment, we gave the default twin tag of initial tag and Ravi Tech Talks. So you can see that the initial device twin also is also been set to this particular device. Now we have seen how to enroll a device with Azure IoT Hub device provisioning service. In order to manage the enrollments, you need to go into manage enrollments. And if you need to remove any of the enrollments, you can remove the enrollments from here completely. And if you want to disable any of the enrollments so that if the device try to register in the future, it shouldn't register, then you can go inside the enrollment and disable it from here. Okay, so this is disenrollment. If you want to deprovision the device completely, then you need to disable the enrollment or delete this enrollment completely. If it is an individual enrollment, if it is a group enrollment, you can go inside the group enrollment and remove the devices which are required to be disabled. Okay, so after doing that activity, you need to again go back to the IoT hub and remove the particular device from that particular device from the IoT hub IoT devices, so that no future communication will be there between the device and the IoT hub. Now that we have seen how to do auto provisioning with DPS and everything, if you want to do the same activities using an Azure CLI, you can follow this link and find the commands. I'll be giving this link in the description below. Please let me know if you have any doubts. Have a nice day.